The moment you stop chasing people, everything changes. Have you ever noticed that the harder you try to keep someone in your life, the further away they seem to drift? You reply instantly. You always check in first. You overthink every message. You try to be funnier, kinder, more understanding. You shrink yourself just to make people stay. And one day, you realize something painful. You've been chasing people so hard. You completely abandoned yourself. But the strange thing is, the moment you stop chasing people, everything changes. Not because the world suddenly becomes kinder, but because you finally stop begging for what should have been given freely. And that changes your entire life. Part 1: The addiction nobody talks about. Most people think attachment looks like love. It doesn't. Sometimes attachment is just fear wearing the mask of love. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of not being enough. Fear of being alone with your own thoughts. So you chase. You chase attention. Validation. Replies. Invitations. Approval. You keep trying to earn a place in people's lives. And slowly, without noticing, your self-worth becomes dependent on how others treat you. If they reply fast, you feel valuable. If they ignore you, your mood collapses. If they praise you, you feel alive. If they leave, you feel destroyed. That's not peace. That's emotional slavery. The dangerous part? Most people normalize it. They call it loyalty, effort, commitment. But deep inside, it's exhaustion. Because chasing people is one of the fastest ways to lose yourself. Part 2: Why people pull away. Here's the uncomfortable truth. People can feel desperation. Not always through words, but through energy. When someone feels like your happiness depends on them, they feel pressure. And pressure pushes people away. Nobody wants to feel emotionally responsible for another person's identity. That's why overchasing often creates the exact thing you fear most: distance. The more available you become, the less valued you sometimes are. Not because you're worthless, but because humans naturally respect what respects itself. Read that again. People respect what respects itself. When you constantly overextend yourself for people who barely reciprocate, you silently teach them that your time, attention, and energy are unlimited. And people rarely value what feels guaranteed. Part 3: The turning point. At some point, everyone reaches a breaking point. Maybe it was the unanswered message, the cancelled plan, the dry conversation, the friendship that became one-sided, the relationship where you kept giving while feeling emotionally starving. And suddenly you realize, I'm tired. Not angry. Not dramatic. Just tired. Tired of initiating. Tired of proving your worth. Tired of trying to matter to people who only remember you when it's convenient. And in that exhaustion, something powerful begins. Detachment. Not coldness. Not hatred. Just clarity. You stop forcing conversations. You stop begging for attention. You stop trying to convince people to choose you. And for the first time in a long time, you breathe. Part 4: Silence reveals everything. The moment you stop chasing people, silence becomes a truth detector. You discover who actually cares. Who reaches out first. Who notices your absence. who only loved your effort, not you. And yes, it hurts. Because some people you would have crossed oceans for won't even cross a street for you. But that realization is freeing. Why? Because now you stop wasting your life watering dead plants. You stop romanticizing potential. You stop holding on to people who already let go emotionally months ago. And slowly, your energy returns. Part 5: Loneliness Before Peace. Nobody talks about this part enough. When you stop chasing people, life gets lonely before it gets peaceful. Because you're no longer distracting yourself with constant validation. You sit alone more. You overthink more. You question your worth more. Sometimes you even wonder if distancing yourself was a mistake. But loneliness is not always a punishment. Sometimes loneliness is withdrawal from emotional addiction. You're learning how to exist without constantly needing reassurance. That's hard. But it's powerful. Because once you become comfortable alone, people lose the power to emotionally control you. And that changes everything. Part 6: The Power of Self-Respect. Self-respect is quiet. It doesn't beg. It doesn't chase. It doesn't scream for attention. It simply walks away from what consistently feels one-sided. The strongest people aren't the loudest people. They're the people who can accept disappointment without destroying themselves. They understand something most people never learn. You cannot force connection. No amount of effort can make someone value you the way you deserve. And once you truly understand that, you stop trying to control people's feelings. You stop exhausting yourself trying to be enough for everyone. Because the truth is, the right people never require you to abandon yourself to keep them. Part 7: What happens next? This is the part nobody expects. When you stop chasing people, you become attractive again. Not just romantically. Energetically. Why? Because peace changes your presence. You stop over-explaining. You stop seeking approval. You stop panicking over rejection. You become calmer. More grounded. More selective. And suddenly people notice. Some return. Some become curious again. Some finally realize your value after your attention disappears. But this time, something inside you is different. You no longer need their validation to feel complete. That's the real transformation. Not getting people back. Getting yourself back. Part 8: The Harsh Truth About Human Nature. Sometimes people only appreciate your presence after feeling your absence. Sad, but true. Some people are so used to your constant effort that they mistake it for permanence. They think you'll always be there. Always available. Always forgiving. Until one day, you aren't. And suddenly they feel the silence you used to carry alone. But don't stop chasing people as a strategy to manipulate them. Do it because you finally understand your value. There's a huge difference. One comes from ego. The other comes from healing. Part 9: Your energy is your life. Every day, you give people pieces of your energy. Attention. Care. Time. Emotion. And energy is limited. Imagine pouring water into cups with holes at the bottom. That's what happens when you continuously invest in relationships that drain you. Meanwhile, your dreams wait. Your goals wait. Your peace waits. All because you were too busy trying to be chosen by people who never fully chose you. The moment you reclaim your energy, Your life starts moving again. You sleep better. Think clearer. Create more. Grow more. Because your mind is no longer consumed by emotional survival. Part 10, the final lesson. Not everyone you lose is a loss. Some people leave because their role in your story is over. Some connections expire. And forcing expired relationships only creates suffering. Real love, whether friendship or romance, flows naturally. It doesn't constantly leave you anxious. It doesn't make you beg for basic effort. It doesn't make you feel invisible. The moment you stop chasing people, you stop living in fear of abandonment. And that's when life becomes lighter. Because now you understand. You were never supposed to force people to stay. The people meant for you will choose you clearly, naturally, and consistently. And until then, protect your peace. Protect your energy. Protect yourself. Because losing other people is painful. But losing yourself while trying to keep them? That's the real tragedy. Ending. One day, you'll look back and realize the best thing that ever happened to you was learning how to let people go. Not with anger. Not with bitterness. But with calm acceptance. Because the moment you stopped chasing everyone else, you finally started finding yourself.